Hello and welcome to my dressing room in Peoria, Illinois. Today, we're going to talk about what it costs to make a record, or particularly in this case, what it costs for me to make my newest record, Exceptional Chaos. Coming up on July 26, 2024, Exceptional Chaos will be available streaming everywhere. I also printed this record for CDs and I'm printing it for vinyl for Brit Floyd shows only. When I've been asked to describe Exceptional Chaos so far, I call it jazz fusion in too many notes. Realistically, it was just a record that I wanted to do for myself. I kind of needed to scratch the itch of musical things that I hadn't been able to play or perform in a little while, and I wanted to do it with a lot of friends of mine. I used my writing and playing in this record a little bit to pay homage to Chick Corea, one of my favorite musicians of all time. There was a record of his that I discovered probably about the time that I got to college, which was called Paint the World, which was an electric band album, and it really drew me into the music of Chick Corea. Particularly, there are two songs on that record that I really love the most, Space and Silhouette. You'll have to go listen to it, and I'll put a link here, but I can't remember which order they're in, but I used these songs as a reference to create intros for two songs, which were Like-Minded Tyrant and To the Center of the Galaxy. This record for me was recorded in 2 nights in January 2023 and a third night in December 2023. Like-Minded Tyrant was actually the last song to be recorded, and I did it because I felt like I didn't have enough material. This song was produced by one of my childhood friends and a really great musician and multi-instrumentalist, Marcus Jones. He also was the engineer. He played trumpet, keyboards, and also did programming with me. I played tenor saxophone, fretted and fretless bass, keyboards, percussion. I did some programming, and I also mixed this record. This was the first record that I've attempted to mix for myself, really, probably since my first release. Michael D'Angelo was on drums, also another childhood friend of mine, and for those of you who watched the Brit Floyd gig here and there, you've probably also seen every now and then that Mike has played drums with us here and there and sat in on some select dates. My good friend Troy Kahn on guitar, one of my Berklee College friends Jamie Song on grand piano and synth. My friend Stacy Huggins played Mr. Potato Head, which he always does on every one of my records. And I had 2 guests on this record. One was Manuel Valera from Vital Information. He played Rhodes and synth. And also Harry Waters playing Hammond B3 organ on Like-Minded Tyrant. This album was mastered by one of my best friends, George Espinosa Cruz. The sessions were engineered by Michael D'Angelo and my friend Sean Mead. And last but not least, my Brit Floyd bandmate Ito Scordo did all of the artwork for the record. Now let's break down some of my costs that it took to make this record. All of the musicians that I mentioned for this record and our producer all together, I'm lumping those together because Marcus was a player and a producer. All of that was $3,800. One thing that I was really pushing for on this record, this was the first time that I felt like I could really afford to do a record the way that I wanted to do it, so it was very important for me to pay people what they were worth. In fact, I kind of wish that I was able to pay even more than that for the energy that they put into this project. Up next was the mix, which I actually did myself. I did that in-house. For some of the mix engineers that I use sometimes, I paid like $300 or so per song, but I saved a lot of money by doing it myself, and I felt like I had enough skill set to get this record done sounding the way that I wanted to, and also it was going to cost me $0 to do that. That being said, I still would have preferred to send this out, but I'm glad to have saved the dollars. Then we have mastering. I'll always send out for mastering just to make sure that everything is getting the final touch to sit well on the final recording. This cost $410. This was for a streaming master, a CD master, and a vinyl master. I'm sure that George gave me a deal on that, but I'm glad that he just let me pay him for once. He never does that. Up next was all of the artwork, which Ito did. This cost $300, and for $300 I got a front and a back cover for the printing, a top for the CD, and 2 tops for the vinyl. Next in the order are my printing costs, which was about $47.50 rounded. That's not including the shipping I'm sure that I'm going to have to do coming up. I printed these particularly for the Brit Floyd shows because in the past I've had a record of mine on sale at the merch booth there, and it did pretty well. So I figured I would give it another shot. CDs sold well with this crowd, and I also thought about doing vinyl. I mean, it's something that's important to me to have, and I'm hoping that because vinyl sales are actually higher than CD sales at the moment statistically, that this would do pretty well for me there too. That being said, I've already done the process of printing the CDs, which should be here actually very shortly. That was probably around $1,100 or $1,200, and the remaining were the vinyl costs. The vinyl stuff I'm actually doing a little bit later on because my timeline with Brit Floyd tours was not going to make it possible. Vinyl at this point takes about 6 weeks or so to print, and I don't quite have that before all of the Brit Floyd gear leaves to go to Europe, and I didn't want to bring it myself for a million reasons. So this will be done while I'm in Europe. I'll have it in the winter, and this will be on sale at Brit Floyd shows in 2025, where the CDs will actually be on sale later this leg. The actual streaming release of this is coming up, which is July 26th again. It'll be on all of the platforms. This cost me $45 rounded with a coupon. I particularly did this again through CD Baby, which is where I've done all of my records through. And to be honest with you, I wanted to try some other platforms. I had been experimenting with TuneCore and DistroKid, and the reason why I decided to go back with CD Baby for this particular release was that I noticed last year on my ASCAP statements that some of my fusion songs from my previous releases were making it onto sync placements in commercial music. Knowing that people were looking at my name and buying fusion music from some library somewhere that CD Baby was supported, I figured I would do another fusion release through them. So right now, looking at this record on the whole, we're looking at about $9,300 it took for me to make this record. Let's pretend for a second that I had sent this out to mix, and you could expect 6 songs to be mixed at $300 a piece for another $1,800. This is just to give you a bit of a reference to what this should have cost. On top of all of this, I really wanted my streaming release to do well on a lot of fronts, so I've put in some extra money into doing some playlist support and some social support, trying to get my accounts ready for this release. I obviously want it to be as visible as possible, so I've been looking at a lot of avenues. Up to this point, up to today, which is July 5th, I've spent $435 doing 3 different playlist services. I'm seeing a lot of benefits from that so far, and I need to keep doing it. Getting ready for this release, I changed my game plan for release actually very late. At the point that I had submitted this for distribution, I had a call with my friend Sean Mead, who told me that my gameplay was incorrect for what the market was asking for. He was suggesting that I do some social content and releases up front, some playlisting support, some social support, and then after the release, I still have like 4 weeks left of supporting more of this record, which a bunch of you guys have probably seen on my Instagram account and now my YouTube account. So with that being said, the $435 that I've spent on 3 playlisting campaigns is probably going to grow larger, just simply because I want the maximum reach that I can get, whether it be social or playlisting or something else. On the launch date, I'm going to do a playlist push campaign, which will definitely cost me another $300 plus, probably up to $600. This will see some of the songs from this record making it onto playlists for Apple and Spotify and Tidal and all of these other things, basically just buying myself more visibility. Now let's talk about how this record is going to make money and what I expect out of it. Okay, let's get a little bit of the unknown variable out of the way first. So when you do a streaming release like this, I'm trying to take those songs and put them in different places to try to get them more and more visible so that they'll earn me money over a period of time. Things like sync licensing, playlisting, etc., etc. So I'm anticipating on putting this with my sync licensing service that I work for, and I anticipate doing more playlisting campaigns for these probably for the next 6 months, to be honest with you, just to get them more visible. Now, when we're talking about physical stuff like the CDs and the LPs, printing physical media is a game of buying power. What I mean by that is that if I buy more CDs or LPs up front, my costs go down at some points drastically. And then I might have a higher buy-in at the beginning, but my profits are higher also because of obviously less cost of printing certain things at higher numbers. For these, I'm doing a bit of a test run because I actually don't know quite where I sit in this industry right now. And so for Brit Floyd, I'm printing 300 CDs and 300 vinyl. The CDs will cost me about $1,200 for 300. They'll sell for $20 at Brit Floyd shows, and I expect to make $4,800 in profit after 300 sold. The vinyl will cost me about $3,600 for 300 LPs, and I expect to make about $8,400. Grand total of 300 CDs and 300 vinyl sold, somewhere in the range of $13,200. When you consider that this cost about $9,700 so far to produce, $4,500 in profit for 600 sales. This obviously is not going to include the streaming numbers yet because who knows what those are going to be. Okay, now here's the really fun part. Would I make another record with the knowledge that I've kind of put out there now? Of course, and to be honest with you, I hope that I can grow my fan base, which in turn will allow me to pay more the next time that I do it. I saved a ton of money by mixing this record myself, but to be honest with you, I lost an entire week of time that I could have been doing other things, which in some ways would have made it be worth it to pay out for that. Printing vinyl was also one of the most expensive parts of this record, but honestly, I feel like it's worth it for me to do that. It's a medium that I want this music to live on. I just hope that it sells as well as I want it to. But again, that's kind of why I only purchased 300 units of CDs and 300 units of vinyl. I kind of want to see how they fare. I really enjoyed the process of getting to make music with people. As a lot of you know, I work on records quite often that I'm just working by myself doing everything. But the interaction of being in a room with people and bouncing ideas off of each other, you know, as it's happening is a really fun thing. So just a reminder once again, the only place that you can buy physical versions of this music are going to be at Brit Floyd shows. CDs will be available towards the end of this leg. You might have noticed that my release date is coinciding with our Charlotte, North Carolina show, which is my hometown. I'm super excited about releasing music. And also I'm hoping to have a bunch of these musicians with me at the show that day. The vinyls won't be released until next year's Brit Floyd shows, simply because they're going to be a pain in the ass for me to get on tour this year. Anyway, I hope that this video helped you if you were trying to understand the financial side of making a record and releasing a record. If you'd like to support my record, it's coming soon. It will be on all the streaming platforms. You'll see it everywhere, but you can still pre-order it at Bandcamp. The whole record is something like $6, or if you decide that you want to donate extra for whatever reason, I'll put a link up above for you. Thanks again for checking this stuff out. I hope it's helpful for you if you're thinking about making a record for yourself. If you have any questions about the process, need some help or some guidance, always feel free to send me a message. I'm on Instagram and I look at my YouTube account all the time. You can find me pretty easily in both places. You can also email me on my website, www.ryansaranich.com.